Hey, we're back. I'm back at the Cafe 210 in the prayer room. And if you haven't been to the Cafe 210 and you live in Visalia, come here. This is a great connecting place. One of the things we connect with a lot of people. I've been connecting with William for a few years now, haven't? Yeah,
Something like
something
that.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and William and I also connect with a whole bunch of people. Saturday it's called Cup of Jazz, and you hear great music. And Williams done. We've done this before, but William's a poet and he's gotten some books that he's written. And in fact, William, if they want to know where to find your books, do you know how they can find your books?
Well, I have a web page,
Oh,
technosmith.com,
okay, spell that.
Techno
.com.
Smith.com,
Okay, one more time, a little slower.
Technosmith.com.
Okay, and I'll get that again and put it on. And this is great because,
Now,
well, yeah, go
well,
ahead.
you'll get a list of about 80 or 100 things, and towards the
Oh,
bottom,
wow, because you're into
that,
a lot of things. Yeah.
yeah, it's mainly appropriate technologies, but down towards the bottom, get into some essays, and in the very bottom, I have access to my books. So
Oh,
you can click on there and find out how to get them from there directly from the
well,
publisher.
last a couple of Saturdays ago, because William, you don't get up and sing, but you are our poet at Cup of Jazz.
I seem to be.
Yeah, you are. You're the poet, and you there. No, tell us about this. Go for it.
Okay, the poem I'm going to share right
Oh, and
now,
is this what you shared?
the one that, yeah,
Yeah, that I liked.
a couple weeks ago.
Okay, and then okay, which is going to lead into this next one. Okay, go
Okay.
for it.
Yeah, sometimes we find ourselves really wanting to quit. At least some of us do. Where everything like, what what hope is there now? And one of my favorite verses, uh, the favorite verse can change for the situation, but I've been encouraged by Romans 8:11, where it says, "If the Spirit who lives in you, who raised Christ from the dead, He will give life to your mortal bodies." And that promise that no matter how low we are,
Hmm,
we couldn't outdo Jesus. Okay,
hmm.
so I'll just go ahead and share, and this explains it. I choose to arise, and no power in hell can or will stop me nor silence my bell. The Spirit within me raised Christ from the dead and has the power to lift me from apathy's bed. And I also like to think of discouragement's bed. When I contemplate that glorious day, when Jesus burst forth, death had nothing to say. No power of darkness could stand in his way. He arose through a barrier, ripping chains with both hands that divided the universe from God's glorious plans. The fabric of time and the spiritual realm were torn as the Master returned to the helm. Those imprisoned by death and mankind's futile ways now came pouring on through as those nights turned to days. No longer enslaved by futility and strife, we are now free to leave pointless death to new life. I am free, I am free, I am free.
Wow. And that triggered another thought.
Well, this, when I was writing, there's only four words in the first line. And in the middle of that line, as I began to transcribe this poem, a drop of water struck the page.
Oh, wow.
And little backstory right here of what happened then. I'd gotten out of bed at about 3 a.m. in the morning, to spend a little time with the Lord. After waiting on him for 15 minutes or so, I felt compelled to begin composing this poem. It was a rainy night, and about halfway through the first line, that very second, a drop of water struck the page. This was the only leak I've ever become aware of during over 20 years of occupancy. Now, here's something a techno nerd would do, okay? When I calculated the number of areas the size of this paper within a square footage of this house and multiplied it times the seconds in a 24-hour period, the odds against this leak being over this page at this time were greater than 240 million to 1. I promptly brought in a bowl to catch the water and placed it on the dry rug beneath where I had been writing. A few minutes later, when I had finished the poem, the leaking had stopped, and in the morning there was still only a couple of tablespoons of water in the bowl. Conclude what you must. Now, just a little follow up for that. Within a day or two, of course, I went up to locate and fix the leak. And in our attic, good insulation with paperback and glass insulation below it, over that area, there was no sign of water.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
There was no sign of a leak.
God.
And, here, hey, here's the poem. That's what happened. Figure out what you want.
Wow. Oh,
And I haven't seen a leak since,
oh,
in the years since.
God.
So that, I just,
Oh, that's rich.
but contemplate the words of that poem because there is nothing with the Spirit who raised Christ from the dead. He lives in us.
Oh, wow.
And as we walk with God and walk in His Spirit, there isn't anything that cannot be overcome.
Oh,
I
well,
mean, including death itself. And I've had that happen a couple of times too.
William, this is rich. This is rich. Um, oh, you got one more. How about one more?
Okay. Now, among my books, there is a book on poetry titled Journeys of the Heart, and that's available at technosmith.com, bottom of the page, as I mentioned. I've had a lot of rich adventures, but some relate to friends of mine that I've been close to.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry, I know this is going to hurt some people, but a couple of my friends had abortions. I mean, one guy, he didn't have an abortion, but
Yeah,
his wife did.
yeah.
And I mean, it impinges your conscience, no matter who you are,
Hmm.
eventually.
Hmm.
This friend of mine had gotten away from God, and he'd served in Vietnam, and I mean, he was still away from God when I spent a little time with him. And I mean, he laughed at some of the kills he made. It was all a joke. He was the coldest, when he spoke, your blood would freeze by this time. I'd known him well before. And as he was talking, he shared that about a girl that he'd gotten pregnant, and they'd found an abortion clinic or whatever they should call it. And this is before the Supreme Court decision, and they'd had an abortion. And unbelievably, he choked as he said it. He said, "Bill, I've killed my own son."
Wow.
And I tried to say, "No, Doug, you didn't do that," but I knew I was lying. But anyway, so there's a line in here on that there is a lot more here. So this is kind of a vicarious feelings that I express in this one.
Hmm.
And so this was like late 60s. When the blind lead the blind, they go nowhere. We go nowhere. And that's where you've led me today. I watched while you trashed all our values because I thought you had something to say. But you just kept on ripping and tearing as if that were the end of it all. Self-indulgence was all that you taught me, and that's what made this grand nation fall. Oh, the conscience that cries in the darkness for the little one who never will be. Oh, my child, how I wish you were living. How I wish that it could have been me. Now I must continue my searching for the meaning life must have for me. But I don't need another shove downhill. At least there's a few things I see. I went to a church in my childhood. My parents sincerely believed. But I thought I knew better than they did. My parents, my God, how they grieved. But what can you say to a culture that creates their own gods as they will? And how can you stand in a current that does little but dive down the hill? Life is a miracle at least, and to live is to outrun the odds. The defiance of that which is natural is what separates men from dead gods.
Williams, this is awesome. I think the poem says it all. And man, this is a joy. Yeah, guys, if you want to see William, well, he's here a cup of jazz, and during the week we're here too, and if you want to get his poetry, I'll put that site that you can go to. William, thank you. for
Well, thank
sharing.
you.
Okay, and we'll do this again.
Okay.
God bless. And God bless you.